when the media disappear.
Yeah, good.
One of the things you didn't mention up there, Kevin, was I read in the report, which may be a secret, about it being wrapped in plastic, like cling film or something.
Oh.
And you haven't mentioned that. Is that
okay, yeah, no. Yep, thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, through the chair. So part of the safety requirement as well, or safety requirements we'd like to put on the building is, as we're going through the process, and we have these granite panels and sets of 3 coming all the way down the side of the building, what we'll do is looking at putting a transparent plastic adhesive over those. So what it does is, in effect, it just binds the panels together. So the one you're working on is constantly connected to other panels. So again, reduces the risk component because reduces significantly the notion of any of them falling.
So it's wrapped that way, not that way?
Yes, vertical.
And just personal disclosure, I wasn't in favour of buying the ASB building. I think there were 6 of us of that.
Thank
persuasion.
you. Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions, and again on the theme of all the information's we've been told has been disclosed. Well, I suppose my question is, and it's a public document that's on Fletcher Construction website, as to why their involvement between remediating facade work between July 2014 and November 2014 by Fletcher Construction has not been mentioned either in your presentation or in the confidential report. And particularly, we're left with the impression that some due diligence was done, and now the problem's been discovered. But I put to you that Fletcher Construction has done some extensive work on remediation, and on their own website that they show this 135 Albert Street project as a flagship, and they're saying it costs 44 million, but ours apparently for council it cost 24 million. But that aside, remediation of the external building facades required swinging stage platforms to be suspended from the roof on level 31, and a cantilevered scaffold was erected around the building's perimeter 29 levels above Albert, Federal and Wellesley Streets to enable facade remediation. Undertaking this work without risk to the construction team or the public required meticulous planning. They were up there 18 months ago, 31 stories up there remediating the facade. My question is, why wasn't that, and why hasn't their work been informed in this, in our papers and in your presentation, Kevin? Because I think that's key, and I want to hear whether Fletcher's work was inspected, whether it was reviewed, whether they've been brought into it, whether they identified any problems while they were 31 stories up. To think that we're now having to cantilever scaffolding and everything else 18 months after they did that seems ridiculous. So I suppose my question is, why have we not been informed? Why did I have to find it from Fletcher Construction's website? Their level of involvement, 31 stories up, remediating the facade.
Okay. Okay, look, yeah, a few component pieces. First up, remediation hasn't occurred. I'm not privy to what you've actually got in front of you there, so I'll have to, it would be quite nice to share information. I can have a look at that. What has happened, obviously, is the due diligence, and there's been 3 stages of that, as we've talked about both in February and in today's meeting. And what there's looking at is removing some panels in some cases, looking behind them, putting the boroscopes in. That's all part of the due diligence, the investigation process to determine what the right solution's going to be. The remediation on those hasn't started yet. So I'm not quite sure what that particular item you've got there is referring to.
Oh, well, you'd have to refer to
Yep.
Fletcher Construction, which is alarming, because I would have thought that given Fletcher's Construction spent 6 months, 18 months ago, up there, cantilevered, 31 stories up, remediating, quote, the facade. Are you telling me that you haven't, up to this point, you haven't had contact with Fletcher Construction over this particular issue as to whether they identified? Did they report back saying, wow, you've got an issue here, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm not. I'll have to check on whether they were involved in any of the parties. There have been the structural engineers like Holmes Consulting. There's been GHD doing the actual review of the analysis. I'm not sure if anywhere through that process Fletcher's was involved in some capacity, but it definitely wasn't the main contractor or the main project engineer on the project. I'll look into that for you. But like I say, remediation. It's
certainly on their
Skype
Skype sheet. Yeah, Fletcher Constructions.
Yep.
Secondly,
Kevin, was it part of the fit out?
We'll have to refer not in that time frame though, so we'll have to check on exactly what that was. But I cannot see any major works that was undertaken by Fletchers. They may have been asked to review since they've been part of the original construction as part of that capacity, but that's beyond that I'm not aware.
So you're saying, Kevin, the cantilevered scaffolding erected around 135 Albert Street perimeter, 29 levels above Albert, Federal and Wellesley Streets to enable facade remediation and the swinging stage platforms suspended from the roof on level 31 may not have happened.
Look, I'll have to check on what exactly that means. If that was part of the due diligence and investigation work, that is a possibility. If it was things like pinning on stone that they'd found maybe at the time, that might have been part of the work. I'll find out what was actually involved.
Thank you, Kevin. And I suppose my concern here, Madam Chair, is that that piece of work, according to Fletcher, and I've got the website here, I've got their Skype sheet, should have formed part of, if not the presentation, should have formed part of the report. We've been told, we've been given assurances from the Chief Executive that we're having a public meeting today because everything is on the table. I'm telling you, 18 months ago, Fletchers, according to Fletchers, were up there remediating granite, 31 stories up, and that hasn't formed part of our report, and nor, by the sounds of it, have we had much contact with Fletchers. My second question is around the granite that we're purchasing. Kevin, are you able to disclose where that's coming from?
Yeah, okay, so it's not granite we're purchasing. The composite, you're talking about the lightweight composite replacement of the granite? Yeah. We're going to work that through with the procurement process as part of procurement plan and supply recommendations. The selection at this stage looks like it'll actually be a material made in France, but then actually pulled together, constructed and fabricated in New Zealand to use here.
So it'll be shipped over from France?
The raw product, yeah, the base product.
And I suppose
sorry, if I can just elaborate, yeah, that is what we'll be taking to the Tender Procurement Committee as the preferred option at this stage, yep.
Well, I just wonder, Madam Chair, whether that is in keeping with our, this being a sustainability leader, this being a 5-star Green Star building that we have championed, and we have spent much money on worm composting bins, level 4 terrace staff gardens, fair trade cafeteria, sustainably sourced timber, LED lights, cost to obtaining Green Star certification, New Zealand sourced timber, and now we're going over to France to get this composite, and I just wonder if that's within the ethos of the Green Star building. To me it doesn't seem conducive to what Council said. We're going to retrofit this 1990s bank building for Green Star to show some real leadership. You're telling me now that we're going to go over to France and get some composite product, and I just wonder whether that's conducive with all the efforts to make it Green Star, given all the diesel and ship oil that it would require.
Yep, because what you can't find is that material anywhere in New Zealand. There's no manufacturers of a lightweight composite for a building of this sort that can be found within New Zealand. So of the 40 materials examined, this was the best one, and like I say, there is no equivalent in New Zealand.
Leaves a frog in your throat.
Thank you.
That's a good answer.
Councillor Crum.
Nothing in New Zealand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was just a short time ago that we were looking at a proposal for new digs on the ground floor. I have a question around, and it's a governance question for us really, and probably more suited for the CFO and CEO, on who's doing due diligence on the way that we do due diligence.
Good question.
And we've raised several times here already in this item alternative financing, and in that stream is better business case work for us. And that's another issue that I think sits out there for us and doesn't get any teeth on it yet. I'm assured that there will be, and so for me this is raising lots of questions on, do we have teeth in our due diligence process? How do we get assured of that? And that is a question that I want answered. We are going to have, and I see what we've got going forward, a procurement plan, and we'll have our senior staff watchdogging what we do from here on out. But what about the wider picture here for us? Would you not blame us for asking how we are doing due diligence when I look at the legal letter here, and I won't be referring to any of the content, but it does require some reading between the lines in it. So my question is, Madam Chair, who is doing due diligence on the way that we do due diligence?
Well, I'm not sure whether the Chair of Audit and Risk wants to comment, but I mean, we've got regular reporting. We'll be coming back to Audit and Risk Committee, so I don't know whether the Chief Executive wants to comment.
Through you, Chair. So the two main groups that would make commentary around the quality of our contract management systems, our project management systems, and you've seen that in the last audit management letter that we got. So it does form part of the OAG's brief and the Audit New Zealand team that do this work, and they have made a number of recommendations to the Mayor and Council about what they would want to see management doing to improve and seek to improve the quality of project and contract management at the Council and throughout the group.
Okay, Councillor Clow.
Yeah, I just want to endorse what Councillor Cashmore said, except, not the issue of the pink papers, because I actually thought when we get pink papers, that's a signal to leak them, almost. It just seems to happen quite frequently. But anyway, I totally endorse his mathematics there, and we're coming forward in the future with alternate funding proposals, and one of them will be whether we want to sell that building and hopefully book a substantial gain on it, and not just a paper gain, a real gain, which is going to take some pressure off our rating and other matters that we can spend that money on. And what Councillor Cashmore didn't mention, though, is potentially if we do sell it, especially to someone from Europe and a few of the Asian countries where interest rates are zero, or interest rates on bank rates, bond rates are zero, or indeed negative, that we might be able to negotiate a very, very good flat rent holiday or flat rent proposal for a number of years on top of what we bank. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do there. I do, just a question, and Councillor Stewart brought it up when we discussed it earlier. The cladding is fully warranted, but what if the fire-resistant building standards move in 5 years' time or 10 years' time and become stricter again, and this cladding actually doesn't meet what would become then the fire standards? What's the situation there?
Look, I suppose that's always a possibility with anything, that the standards do change. It's the highest standard right now. New Zealand has quite high standards, and so yeah, I couldn't comment on what may happen in the future.
Because a warranty normally would cover that?
The two components. If you're talking about the fire resistance, the standard,
but does
high New Zealand standards.
what I'm meaning is the warranty cover it if the fire resistance standards get much stricter again, and this product falls below.
That's actually warranting the product itself, that it's meeting its purpose. Okay. It wouldn't be retrospectively applying the fire standards if they'd changed.
Councillor Darby.
Thank you, Chair. Kevin, you mentioned when you gave your presentation that this was not a case of weather ingress. But later on in your presentation, you actually did touch on weather ingress. And I just want some clarification, because you said there is water ingress. Earlier on, you said there is no water ingress, or it's not a weather tightness issue.
Yes.
And the building code actually makes it pretty clear that this is a weather tightness issue, because it's not about damage to the structural component, it's damage to components of the building which adhere the facade. So first of all, I just wanted you to expand on that. Yep. I also furnished a number of questions with you yesterday, and I'm just wondering, do you still have those, and can you answer those questions that I furnished yesterday?
So the two pieces. First up, the notion of water ingress versus weather tightness or leaky homes. Yeah, so this is not a case of water ingress getting inside the structure of the building and causing concern there. It is purely retained within that fixing and the cladding piece. So that's as far as it goes. So very, very conscious that the whole notion of weather tightness and leaky homes is then creating a structural issue inside the house. That's not
No,
the case
leaking
here.
buildings.
Yep, leaky buildings, yep.
Buildings, not
Yep.
homes, buildings.
Yep,
Buildings.
yes. Oh, no, sorry, yep, leaky homes, leaky buildings, same situation here. So it is not a case of water getting in and actually affecting the structural integrity of the building. That is not the case, and that's what I meant when I said it is not the leaky building piece.
Clarification, the code talks about that, and it's quite specific in that regard, that it does not necessarily limit to that. But if the water ingress is damaging or corroding,
Yep.
and you've given me the McDonald report, and it's chapter about corroding and missing fittings.
Yes.
And the code is quite specific. It says if there is water that is coming through the facade and damaging those components, it is a weather tightness issue.
Yeah. Look, and I have to get the exact wording here, but it's still the fundamental concept is the fixings that are being affected, the corrosion occurring on those, is the fixings holding the cladding to the building.